established rich coming right back at you. And today we talking about JayZ and the comments made by Oschino that's got people looking at his legacy different. And when you're dealing with somebody at that level, you have to separate emotion from logic and really pay attention to what is being said. Now, before we go any further, let me make sure everybody understands my intent. These are claims and allegations being discussed publicly and not verified facts. So we are just looking at the conversation. Because when you're talking about somebody like JayZ, you are talking about one of the most influential figures in hip hop. And anything attached to his name is going to carry weight, whether it's true, false, or in between. Now, let's start with the first issue, because this is the one that makes people the most uncomfortable.
Same thing with the boy Ramir. So I told Ramir, I said, bro, remember, whether it's your dad or not, the world will have backlash for you. They love him. You know what I'm saying? So get ready for it. You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, I don't want no money. I just want to, you mean? JayZ did everything in his power to not take the DNA test. And the boy Ramir don't have a mom. You know what I mean? My thing is this, if you're a man, like, bro, I took 2 DNA tests I did not want to take because I wouldn't know if that was my son or not, right? Men don't run away from stuff like that. Especially when you was popping his mom. Especially when you don't got no other dad and his mom is deceased. How can I respect you for that? But mind you, now, the most people that don't take care of their kids is because they don't have it. They just don't have no money, they're embarrassed. Well, you got enough bread, so you can say, bro, you know what, bro? Me and you, I'm gonna go get you, we're gonna take the test by ourselves. That's just man stuff. I hate when somebody think they're too big to be a father, or too big, they too much of a celebrity, they can't do regular stuff. I mean, that's because the world treat them like that. You know what I'm saying? I look at every man as a regular person. I mean, you might be rich and all that, but I'm not, you got the same standards as everybody else. Everybody else got to take a DNA test. I can't run, you know, my son Muji, I couldn't run away and not take the test. I had a bench warrant.
Now, after watching that, you have to ask yourself a simple question without emotion or bias. Why would any man spend millions of dollars fighting a DNA test when the test itself could end the conversation immediately? Because logically speaking, if the claim is false, then a DNA test is the fastest way to clear your name. And if the claim is true, then it becomes a different conversation about accountability and responsibility. Now, I understand there are legal reasons why somebody may not want to take that test. But from the outside looking in, it creates more questions than answers. Because the public don't see legal strategy. They see dodging. And when people see you dodging something, they start drawing their own conclusions, whether they right or wrong. Now, there has been a case involving R.I.C.H that was addressed legally, and JayZ was found not to be the father. But even with that being said, it never went away because people still question the process. And that's the real issue here, because sometimes winning a case does not end the public's doubt. It just shifts the conversation into a different type of speculation. Now let's move into the second part of this, because this is where it turns from personal to professional. This is where Oschino starts talking about music and credit.
Now, you signed, and at some point you kind of learned this about JayZ. Is there like a moment or like a time you can remember, like, okay, this dude, he don't really care about none of us?
We start taking our songs, he's not giving us nothing. And then not even acknowledging for taking it, not doing nothing. He's like, mind you, these songs are songs that were as though they're hits. He making millions of dollars off of them. My thing is this, if you just say young boy, take 1% of the song, or 100,000, he give you absolutely nothing. And when I played it's a group called Non-Brigade from Philadelphia. They got a song called All I Need, right? JayZ stole a beat, they hooked everything, the whole song, right? The only reason he couldn't get away with it because they were signed, they had paperwork. But if you go to YouTube and put Non-Brigade, N-A-A-M, Brigade, All I Need, you'll hear JayZ song All I Need that he took from them. Same thing he used to do from us, but we couldn't sue him because we signed to him. So you take his song and flip it up, make it a little better, cleaner, get Pharrell on it, whatever, and then he'll let you like, haha, it's hot, right? We don't give you shit. That's my whole thing. Like, bro, you can take all, you can have every idea I've ever had. Just give me something for it. You ain't gotta pay me for what it's worth. Give me less than what it's worth. Give me something though. I don't give you nothing. Like, you see that show on TV, like, damn, that's my lines, my verses, my. I mean, and then it's JayZ. So he said it. They're like, who's you? Man, nobody. You gotta take something from you for it. You know what I'm saying? So when I broke up the Non-Brigade thing, I showed let them know, like, listen, bro, this is same beat, same hook, same everything, right? He takes your song. He took somebody from D. He took a lot of people that's not known songs, or ideas, you know what I'm saying, and flipping and bouncing. So for me, it's like, you only want to compensate people even if you make millions and millions of dollars off their stuff. You know what I'm saying? Even if they supposed to be your young boys. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, bro, you was a sucker, bro. You know what I'm saying? Period. You know, you're just a sucker to me. I mean, I never respect you for the shit you did. Even the way you treat Beanie Siegel. I don't even like Beanie Siegel, but I'm saying the way you even treat him. You know what I'm saying? Mind you, we was in the trenches with you. You had us dissing Nas and all this shit for you. I ain't no Nas. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't never see Beanie Siegel at a rock brunch. This supposed to be a young boy. You know what I'm saying? So what he do is he come, he use you, take your shit, whatever he need from you, then he did this throw you in the trash, right?
Now, when you hear that and you go back and listen to the original record, you can understand why people are raising an eyebrow. Because in hip hop, inspiration and interpretation have always existed. But there's a line between influence and copying. And that line usually comes down to credit and compensation. If you take something and build on it, then the question becomes, did you properly acknowledge where it came from? Now, JayZ has always been known as a man who writes his own verses. And that's not even really a question here. The question being raised is about hooks, ideas, and the foundation of certain records. Because when you start looking at his career, you see a lot of collaboration with Pharrell and Kanye West. And you see a lot of songs where the sound and structure were already laid before he put his verse on it. And that's not necessarily a negative thing because that's how music is made at the highest level. But the criticism comes when people feel like contributors were not properly compensated or credited. And that's a fair question to have without turning it into hate. Because in any industry, if somebody builds on your idea, you expect to be acknowledged for your part of it.
JayZ had an album called Blueprint. It was a song on there called All I Need. Am I correct?
Yeah.
It was controversial over that, and still to this day, you guys, the originators of that song, am I correct?
Absolutely.
Can you give me a backstory of that?
Backstory that will be, we recorded this record in VA, producer Bink. And Petey Crack was actually at the session with us. He went down there with us. And this was before he was with the rock.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Petey. Petey got the Q9 tat on his arm. That's how locked in we was at that time. We recorded that record, and that was going to be like the first single off the Elektra album. And they loved it. Rockefeller loved it because Jay Brown was the connection. Jay Brown was our A&R, but Jay Brown is the, I think he's the president of Rock Nation now. So that was like the whole little brother. So he used to come to the sessions and everything. There was an A&R guy named Hip Hop at the time. They loved that record. That was a record that they loved. And then when Q9 passed, we had bags of Skittles that everybody came for. And I like to say that to this day it's an honor though. That's hope. We ain't gonna slight that. But what that say about us?
Now hearing them speak on it directly adds a different layer to the conversation. Because now you're not just hearing a third party. You are hearing from the people who were affected by the situation. And whether people agree with them or disagree, it does not change the fact that they feel like their contribution was overlooked. And that feeling is one that comes up a lot in the music industry, not just with them. Now let's step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. Because this is where Oschino's comments start connecting to JayZ's image. JayZ has positioned himself as a symbol of success, capitalism, and ownership in hip-hop. And for a lot of people, he represents what it looks like to go from the hood to the boardroom. But when you hold that type of position, people are going to judge you by a different standard. Because you're not just an artist anymore. You are an example. And when questions like this start coming up, people start asking if the image matches the reality. And that don't mean the image is false, but it does mean it's being examined a lot more closely. Now, let me say this part so there's no confusion. None of this erases what JayZ has accomplished or what he has contributed to hip-hop. His impact is undeniable, and his place in history is secure. But being great does not mean being above question. And that is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think criticism automatically means disrespect, when in reality, it can just mean accountability. Now, let me bring this back to Oschino for a second. What he is doing is voicing something publicly that a lot of people have thought but never said out loud. And when somebody speaks like that, it's going to make people uncomfortable, especially if they are protective of the person being discussed. But discomfort don't mean the conversation shouldn't happen. It just means it needs to be handled carefully. Because at the end of the day, it's not about proving something in a video. This is about how people perceive success, power, and accountability in hip-hop. And that is a much bigger conversation than just one person and one claim. Now I'm gonna land it like this. When you reach a certain level in life, everything you do gets magnified. Every decision, every move, and every question that comes your way. And how you respond to those questions sometimes matters more than the question itself. Because your response shapes how people see you, even if they never get a definitive answer. So whether you believe Oschino or you don't believe him, the real question is this. How should powerful people be held accountable in a culture that often protects its biggest names? And that right there is a question that's not going anywhere anytime soon. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, Established Rich, I'll be back with another one. Peace.